Hello, and welcome to our workshop. This workshop was previously delivered by SMU's Academic Learning Services Writing Center. As a result, you may hear references to other workshops, be prompted to take part in group activities, or hear references to the active chat from the original delivery of this session. As you follow along, feel free to pause the video and participate in exercises and activities as best you can. We hope you enjoy the workshop.
All right, thank you so much for coming to the online Netiquette and best practices session. In today's topic, we're going to be talking about how to put your best virtual face forward. So we're going to be going through kind of some netiquette of how to kind of present yourself, especially with this new way of learning. Sometimes you'll be in groups and we'll get a chance to go into breakout groups at the end of the session, and how we present ourselves, how we communicate online, and we talked about that yesterday, but this time it's more of a kind of how you present yourself online and ways to kind of make this new learning space kind of move a little bit smoothly and be a little bit seamless as well. So with how we present, how we kind of put our virtual faces forward, it's almost like a presentation. It's almost like you're on a set almost sometimes, where everyone's kind of looking at you. You have a little bit of a square. People can see a little bit into your space. And so how do we make that so that it's a little bit of a seamless and effective environment for learning? And so some things, kind of the before stuff to prepare for, as well as during the presentation. And so in the preparation phase, doing some readings before the lecture, writing out any questions that you may have, any clarification that you may need. This will prepare you for going into a session. So this is similar to even if you were in a regular session. You can go into it feeling confident in what the topic is going to be about. You know what to expect. You know what you're looking for. And so in doing the readings, if you have time, or reading even through the slide deck if it's posted beforehand, you're able to figure out if you have questions. If maybe the prof doesn't cover something, you're able to ask for clarification on it. And in doing so, again, you are able to have that online persona that we talked about that's participatory. You can jump in when questions are being asked. You're prepared for it, and it makes the whole process, especially in an online setting, move a little bit more smoothly, and is more effective in helping you learn the most information as possible. The other thing is making sure, just like we talked about, having your schedule and your meetings and all of those little details prepped and ready, that you don't miss a scheduled session, that you are aware of all of the different meetings you have, labs, courses, study groups, especially as the semester moves along. If you join any societies, you have those meetings blocked off, just so that you can prepare yourself. Again, it's all about setting up that before, all of that information beforehand, so that you go into the new year prepared as much as possible, and you avoid double booking yourself, and you avoid those little stresses that can be worked around if you just schedule out your classes every week, your activities, hobbies, whatever it is. You prepare as much as possible for lectures. You participate. All of those things will really help to make this semester and subsequent semesters, even if we go back to the regular session, face-to-face sessions, it'll make your year go a lot more smoothly as well. So as you know, I mean, you've had a lot of practice these past 2 days with logging in and being on time to sessions and accessing Brightspace and virtual classroom effectively. And so this is just a little bit of a reminder, especially as your classes start and some profs may be using different platforms such as Zoom or Teams, like we saw, like we learned today from Julian. And you notice that if you give yourself a little bit of time, and maybe some of you are already doing this, but giving yourself a little bit of time to prep for the virtual session, but also giving yourself time to access the certain platform that the class is being held on, giving yourself 10 minutes or so to set it up in case there's a technical issue. Maybe you have a problem with your email that day, or there's just something going on. We know technology isn't always going to work as smoothly as we'd like it to. So just making sure and giving yourself a little bit of a buffer time so that you can jump in and figure out, okay, if this isn't working, who can I contact? And giving yourself some time to contact SAS, for example, to help you to figure out what's going on. So again, this is kind of replaced as if we were the 10 minutes you have between classes of walking to your next class, your next auditorium or lecture hall, giving yourself, again, a little bit of time so that this obviously is your new lecture hall. The login is kind of that walking in between time that this is what it's replaced by now. So again, especially if you're unfamiliar with the platform or you're unfamiliar with the site that the prof might be using, again, it just gives you a little bit of time to get in there, and if there's any issues, you can resolve them without being late for class. And so again, kind of carrying on that theme of as if this is kind of a performance, as if you're on a set of a show or something where you have the camera on you, setting the stage. And we talked more in depth on this subject yesterday, but almost to reiterate a little bit, finding a place that's quiet as best as possible. I know all of our living situations differ. And sometimes we're living with multiple people and it's hard to find kind of a space that's just for us and that's quiet. So just do your best. I mean, if you can't find a space that's completely quiet, then that's life. And just making sure that you are setting up your space, whether it's the kitchen table or whether it is a desk or just a side table or whatever it is that you have available to you, that you're setting it up in a way that is, you're treating it like a desk or a table in a lecture hall. You're keeping your books and things that aren't relevant to the class away. You're putting your phone, any games or your switch away, for example, and having just what you need, whether it's just your laptop or a notebook, having that just in front of you and making sure that you're making the most out of your space, setting the stage, as it says here, to make it the most conducive for this learning environment. And it says here at the bottom, avoid listening to lectures, especially live sessions in bed. And I mean, if something works for you, then keep doing it. But making sure you have, especially when you are just working from home, the reason I put this point at the end, especially when you are in a space that you are using for relaxing as well as for studying, it's important to set boundaries between places of relaxation and places of work. And the more you distinguish between those places, the easier it is for your mind to get into this practice of, okay, when I'm sitting at my desk, it's work time. When I'm in my bed or when I'm in my room or whatever it is, however your setup is, I'm relaxing here. And so if you get into the habit of just waking up, staying in bed with your laptop in your lap, your bedroom your bed just becomes a place of both work and stress and maybe anxiety. And so you want to separate those two, especially if you're spending a long period of time at home. or you're just working from home all the time. So just make those distinctions and make sure that you are, again, putting in that, like we talked about yesterday, setting up your space for success and changing those little habits, making those new changes so that you find what works for you, so that you find the best way to study, the best way to work, and to succeed this semester in September. And so this is relates to if your camera's on. In some classes, especially if you are in a smaller lab or just a smaller class size, your prof might expect you to turn your camera on if available. And so make sure that you are doing a little bit of a background check and making sure that your that little square that you can see is clear of distraction as best as possible. Making sure that there's no window, no like glare from the sunlight from a window, if that's right behind you. That if there's people in your house, making sure that they aren't in the background, being a distraction or doing too much, or just there's a lot going on in the background. Pets, even though they are the cutest, sometimes they can be a little bit of a distraction. And so just making sure that you are aware that your peers can see you and that it might be a distraction to them to have a lot going on. And we'll talk a little bit more about how you present yourself online as well. But that's just something to keep in mind. I know that your profs are aware of the different living situations and that sometimes you can't help having people in the background, but avoid, chatting with them or avoid having too much going on in that background. And so a way to avoid this and a way to help with this, here's an awkward photo of me, two photos of me, where you can use features in Teams as well as, I believe, Zoom, that give you this blur feature, or you can change the background completely and help reduce that visual noise. And so if you do have a lot going on in your home, whether it's like a lot of clutter or just a lot of you're not comfortable with showing your house, or there's a lot of people in the background, you can switch that out. You can have different, like a green screen, you can put whatever picture you want, as well as you can use that blur feature again so that you can see the difference between these two pictures, where you can't see, it's not as clear who's in the background or what's in the background. So again, this is just a way to limit that distraction and just to be aware and respectful of your professor and your peers, especially if your camera is on, as it will be expected in some of your classes, especially the smaller ones. The other thing, again, I'm sure you've gotten the little prompt when you get into the session. It asks you to make sure that you're test your mic, as well as if you want to turn it on or turn it off, or do the echo test as well. So a lot of these different, whether it's Teams, Zoom, or virtual classroom, will do this. And so definitely recommend that you do that echo test just to make sure that your volume is good, that you adjust anything that needs to be changed, that you're using the correct output and input when you're speaking, just so that you can hear and people can hear you. And again, doing this beforehand when it prompts you before you start the session will save you time as well in case you were asked to speak out, or if you were presenting something yourself. It limits the confusion and distraction and overall, when something's not working in a kind of technological level, it sometimes can be flustering and irritating to have to go through and figure out what's going on. But in general, I found, especially with virtual classroom, if the sound isn't working for you, if you can't hear what the prof is saying, Sometimes that can, or if the screen goes blank, and it's an issue that only you're having, the best bet is just to do a quick little refresh. And I found that that works the best, especially on these learning platforms. So that's just a tip. If you ever are in a class and you find it starts freezing up, or you've lost the audio from your presenter, then just do a quick refresh. And if not, if you find that you're continuing to struggle with it, contact the SAS, see if they have any suggestions, if you might need to use a different web browser to be on when you are in a course or in a class session, or even maybe something's going on that's more of a deeper technological issue that is happening with everyone. So it just gives you some clarity if you do keep having issues. And again, we've reiterated this a couple times throughout all of the presentations, and just making sure that you mute your mic when you're not talking. Again, it's more comfortable for you so that you are able to kind of move around as freely without worrying about any noises, or even if someone comes in, or background noises in your own space. It also is one of those things that can be a distraction to the presenter. It can be a distraction to your peers. So just keep that in mind. Make it a habit anytime you enter a session, that you immediately mute. And when you want to talk, and when you want to answer a question, then you can always unmute, share your camera so that your peers can see your face, and then go back to muting it. Again, it'll limit that feedback. Sometimes there's that echo, and you can focus on the speaker, your peers can, and it's less distracting as well for the presenter. So that's just a habit. Again, I know there's a lot of little habits that we need to be mindful of. This one is one of those important ones, of just being mindful of, okay, when I enter a session, I'm just gonna mute myself, and then go from there if I need to speak out. So dressing the part, and again, based on how I'm dressed in a hoodie, that doesn't mean you have to dress up for class. You don't have to wear a 3-piece suit. If you want to, go ahead. Kudos to you. But dressing the part, essentially what I wanted to invoke in this is, again, this switching of those little habits, making those little changes. And similar to not studying or not attending a lecture in your bed, having a changing, or having a routine of changing from your pajamas, or your or clothes that maybe, or whether it's exercise clothes or whatever it is for different things, just changing into a new outfit. When you wake up, change into a new outfit, even if it's just another form of pajamas, if it's a sweater and like a jogging set, if that's it, that's fine. Just make sure that will increase your motivation and your productivity. And again, having something for relaxation and having something that denotes that little habit of, okay, now we start work. Now this is when we're going to go into work mode. I've gotten out of bed. Now I'm going to change, and then getting yourself into a routine. More than ever, these little habits make a difference, especially when you feel like you're no longer going to a classroom. So maybe you don't feel the need to dress up or change your outfit. No one's really going to see you during the duration of the school day. But this is more for yourself, dressing the part of switching into that role, just like you get out of bed and go to your kitchen table or to your desk. Again, those little habits will get you into this work mode. You've changed from your pajamas into a new outfit. Okay, time to sit down and do work. And those little kind of, again, those distinguishing little habits help to set boundaries between relaxation, between work time, between kind of, this is the time that I am motivated, I'm going to be productive in doing my work. This is the time where I'm going to watch Netflix, for example. So respect, and one of those obvious ones where just because you, like Julian showed you about the raising hand as well, I believe Amir showed you the features in Zoom. Making sure that you are showing respect by, if you have a question, using those features, or using the chat to comment something that you, while you're responding to a peer or responding to a prof's question. And again, all of these, just because we're online, a lot of these little habits can be transferred even from our being in an actual classroom, in a lecture hall. Similar to how you wouldn't be speaking over each other. Why would you have your mic turned on and then be speaking over your prof or your fellow peers, or putting your feet up on the desk with if your camera's on, and just making sure that things that you would even do in a classroom or in an actual physical lecture hall in a regular session face to face. Making sure that those transfer as well into an online space, and respecting each other, respecting your peers, not speaking over each other, and making sure that everyone gets a turn and a chance to speak and to participate and to share their thoughts as well, especially if there's a discussion or a debate going on. So we already talked about this, raising, if that's an option, raising your virtual hand. All eyes on you. This is not to be so creepy sounding, but even especially if your camera is on, and even if you're muted and there's a lot of things going on behind you, again, if I were to be sitting here, if I were in a class and I was on my phone just texting, or if I was talking to somebody over there and having a conversation, even if I was muted, that can be really distracting for your peers, especially in a smaller class size, especially when you're asked to have your cameras turned on. Just again, those little things that you wouldn't do if you're sitting front row in a class. You wouldn't just be on you have your phone or have your Switch and just playing games. It just, again, just to show that respect to whoever's presenting, and to limit that distraction for yourself as well as your peers and professor. And finally, being present. This one is sometimes easier said than done, especially if it is an asynchronous, so a session that's pre-recorded. It sometimes can be easy to sit and let our mind drift away, or if the prof maybe doesn't ask you to have your mic or have your camera turned on, it's easy to get into the habit of going on different sites, zoning out, and then and not really focusing or participating as much as you should be or would be beneficial. And so this is something that you might have to practice to train yourself in, especially in those asynchronous sessions. Sitting there, trying to get into the habit of, while you're in this session, while you have this 1 hour recording that you need to listen to, that you're completely focused on it. You're making notes. You're really trying to participate as much as possible, especially if it's a live session. Contributing to the polls or to the prof's questions, for example. These are all habits that you should get into, just because if you don't focus the first time and it's time for studying for the exam, you'll find that you have to re-listen to a lot of these different lectures. You might not have time, and you might end up maybe not fully understanding the content and the information in for that class, for that exam. And you might waste a lot of time having to re-listen to the lecture. So really get into that habit of being present, whether it's a live or recorded session, listening to it for the first time with focus and taking notes, so that when it does come time to review, you already have that information stored in your head. You've taken really good notes. You've participated in the class activities or the polls, and you're aware of what's going on. And so this might be something that you struggle with, or you might find difficult, especially in that self-reliant, self-accountability that comes with online learning. And so, like I said, get into good habits right away. Give yourself, be patient with yourself. This is a new setup, and seek help if you find that you need a little bit of coaching in how to focus, or how to set up a space, or how to listen to a lecture. Reach out to the supports that we shared with you earlier today, and somebody's bound to help you and to support you, and to provide those helpful tips with you as well. And so again, it's all about retraining our minds, making little habits. And if something's not working for you right off the bat, then go back and change it. See what the issue is, make changes, and move on. Don't get hung up on what's not working. Think of what is working, and make those changes to do even better, and to help yourself as well. So all of this, I mean, some of you might have already known this. This isn't difficult material that I'm sharing with you, and some of you have maybe already been practicing these habits, which is amazing. And so now I just want to put you into breakout groups, just for maybe 5 or 7 minutes, just to go through this scenario and discuss amongst yourselves, as well as, if you have time to meet other peers and talk about yourself and what you're going to be studying this semester, and just to get to know and make connections with other SMU students. And so the scenario that I have here is, imagine you were asked to post your opinion, on a discussion board post about a film you watched in class. And a classmate of yours posts something that was, in your opinion, offensive and ignorant. Based on what we talked about this week, or yesterday and today, I guess, how would you approach the situation? Would you reply? Would you not reply? How would you reply if you did? And I want you to discuss this with your peers. So essentially, it's a post that was ignorant or offensive to you, and it was posted to the entire class, and you were offended by it. And how would you respond, and how would you approach this situation? Thank you for listening, and just a reminder for you, just to carry with you. I know next week is approaching, and some of you might be feeling a little worried about the upcoming semester, but just be patient with yourself. And just remember that this is a learning, a whole new learning opportunity, as well as almost a journey of going through these new topics and new way of both teaching and learning. So again, be patient with yourself. If something's not working for you, be mindful of it, and make small changes, create new habits. And this semester will be great. And I based on the conversations and the questions and your participation, I can tell you're all keen students and are going to do great this semester. So just be patient with yourself, and take advantage of all of the supports, and make connections with your peers and your profs, and it'll be a great semester.